Hi, it's Thursday, January 30th, 2014. I'm Jeremy Shea, the producer of Gavel, Alaska. I was out for a couple days sick. Seems the flu got me in spite of my flu shot, but I'm healthy now. One little update, I did briefly speak with Senator Mike Dunleavy and Senator Berta Gardner, and they're both game to do a panel talk on education issues on a future episode of Format 360, so I'm in the very early stages of putting that together. Okay, so on to the rundown for what we're covering tomorrow, Friday, January 31st, the 11th legislative day. Along the way, when I do these rundowns, I'll fill you in on what some of the legislation actually means or does or aspires to do. So at 8 a.m., the Senate Education Committee is hearing HB 190, which would require most high schools give students the option to test out of classes for credit. This is a bipartisan bill. The lead sponsor is Representative Paul Seaton, a moderate Republican from Homer, and his co-sponsors include several Republicans and Democrats. At 9 a.m., the Senate Finance Committee is taking up SB 125. The bill is sponsored by the Finance Committee, and Senator Kevin Meyer, an Anchorage Republican, is the one carrying it. This bill basically says don't automatically implement the Alaska State Officers Compensation Commission's recommendations. There's a lot to unpack there. So there's a commission, and its entire purpose is to basically rationalize and recommend what the governor, the lieutenant governor, state department heads, and legislators should get paid, and to do it with some degree of independence, though not that much, since the commission members are appointed by the governor with input from the Senate president and the House Speaker. And recommend is a little misleading in that the commission is more powerful than that word suggests, but I'll get to that in a minute. So the commission met last year, put out a report with recommendations in November, and was supposed to put out a final report today. I couldn't get a copy of the final report, but there's nothing to indicate it will differ much from their preliminary report in November. The November report says the commission has no recommendation on legislator salaries, but they did make recommendations for raises for the governor, lieutenant governor, and department heads. The report bases the raises according to percent pay increases that state employees, typical state employees, have received since the last time the commission made salary recommendations. So these are basically inflation-related pay increases, not merit raises. So the rationale for these raises is to keep pace with everyone else in state government. It would bring the governor's pay up to about $151,000, the lieutenant governor's up to $123,000, and department head salaries up to $146,000. The kind of weaselly thing about the way the state's laws are written regarding the Compensation Commission is that its recommendations automatically take effect unless the legislature proactively passes legislation shooting it down. So SB 125 is the Senate Finance Committee being proactive and actively shooting down the commission's salary recommendations for the governor and his cabinet. A committee aide to Senator Meyer says the underlying motivation is it's budget containment. It's a tough budget year. So that's Senate Finance at 9 a.m. At 10 a.m., the Senate is due on the Senate floor. Nothing substantive on its agenda. The House is not meeting for a floor session Friday. In the afternoon, we'll be in the House Finance Committee for budget stuff at 1:30. That'll be on the web and on TV later. On TV at 1:30, we'll be following SB 64. This is a crime bill with a suite of reforms in Senate Judiciary. This bill aims to reduce criminal recidivism rates and generally softens some of the state's stances on convicts who have served their time and criminal substance abusers. So, for example, the bill would let rehab count toward time served. It would bump the dollar value threshold on what constitutes a felony theft up from $500 where it is now to $1,000. It's been at $500 since 1978. And it would create a fund to set aside money to help people leaving prison transition back to, productive society. It's a pretty interesting bill on its own substance, but also for a number of political reasons. The cynic might call this bill a get soft on crime bill. It's generally very hard politically to soften penalties on crimes in any context, even in the face of overwhelming evidence of the reform's effectiveness. And there's a lot of apolitical evidence of these kinds of reforms doing good. And in this case, and you can imagine how easy it is to twist these reforms into out of context political campaign attack ads. Senator so and so wants to pay criminals. I don't know, that kind of thing. So for those reasons, it tends to be very, very hard politically to get things like these done. So there's one other reason why this is really interesting is it's who's sponsoring this bill. One of the documents in the packet is called "The Conservative Case for Corrections Reform." So it's the Republicans who are backing these reforms. Specifically, Senator John Coghill and Liesl McGuire are carrying it. Not who you'd naturally expect, but hey. The last meeting we're covering on Friday is a 3:30 Senate Resources Committee meeting where they're talking natural gas pipeline. Okay, that's it. Thanks for watching. Feel free to comment, ask me questions, make requests, or pitch ideas. My email is jeremy@ktoo.org, and I'm @jmlshay on Twitter. Thanks.